going to another cool speaker. Her name is Alana. She's director at search platforms at Google. She's Google's veteran, award-winning tech leader, and an author of the books The Adventures of Women in Tech, How We Got There and Why We Stay, which is a great book, by the way. We did also a fireside chat with Alana recently, where she discussed more about her book. And she's also a working mom of 3. She has spoken at many conferences, summit on technology, leadership, diversity, inclusion, talent, and innovation. And she also was one of our speakers at Women Tech Global Conference 2020. Hi, Alana, and welcome.
Is it working?
In a second. Yeah, it's working. Hi, Alana. How are you?
Hello. Okay, made me do all the steps again. Sorry. Hello. Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me.
Absolutely, our pleasure.
Should I just get going?
Yeah, absolutely. You know the drill. Share your slides if you have them.
I do. And I decided to do a little bit of a different presentation. And in the spirit of what Miri was just talking about, I decided you're my guinea pigs on some stories that I'm going to share with you all.
That's wonderful. Okay.
So I also thought, are you seeing it? It looks like it's
loading. Just 1 second.
Okay.
I want to make sure we're good. And then I will give the stage to you. Just a couple of seconds. Suspense. Okay, that sounds interesting. Yeah. Okay, Alana, I will leave the stage to you and enjoy.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah, I decided, given the year 2020 was, that I want different with you all today, because I think 2020 has been so seeing people talking about reflection for themselves. Maybe it's a year just to survive and get through to the other side. And so I was reflecting on different moments. Yes. And I want to start with a career story.
Alana,
I usually tell people.
Just a second. Sorry to interrupt you, but just want to make sure the sound is good. Could you say something again, because it's breaking at moments?
Hello. Is it breaking?
No,
I have headphones on. Okay.
Now it's better.
Maybe I won't talk when I change the slide. Okay. I won't talk when I change the slide. Maybe that'll.
Okay,
great. Ahead. Okay, great. So I was just saying, the year that 2020 has been, I wanted to reflect a little bit. And there's a career story that I usually tell people. You probably have a script, right? And when you're telling people the story of your career, you have sort of your go-to way. It sounds pretty neat. It sounds pretty clean. The story I usually tell people is that I was in college studying history, and I got really into the internet, which was then just becoming a thing, really. And I and some JavaScript, and I became a webmaster, kind of an old-fangled term.
Sorry for interrupting you again. I'm not sure what the problem, but it's breaking again, and I just wanted to check in with people. Just want to make sure that people can hear you well, because what you're going to share is going to be super interesting, I'm sure.
I took out my headphones to try that. Is that helping?
Yes. Say something. I will just stay invisible on the backstage. Go ahead.
Okay. Is this doing it all better?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Go ahead.
It might just be my internet connection, which is awful, but we'll try to make do. We'll see whether I can get.
No, it's good now. Now it's good.
Okay. So the story I usually tell people is history, and I was teaching myself HTML, and I was really interested in web design, information, turned into a job unexpectedly, and I joined And then I joined Google, and I've been at Google 19 years now, had 4 different roles, work in program management within search infrastructure. And I wrote a book, The Adventures of Women in Tech, How We Got Here and How We Stay. Because much like Miri was talking about, I was concerned about belonging and not seeing the stories that really reflected me or other women, and wanting to share more of those. So I interviewed 80 women and I wrote a book. It's a very clean story. It sounds like it's full of highlights and that I never had a bad day. But I'm going to change slides. Hold on, I have to go back and forth between screens. But it's 2020. And I think we all know that it hasn't been that kind of year. And in fact, along our careers, we have all kinds of ups and downs. This is a recent Facebook post from me, just from Saturday, I think. And I was basically pepper sprayed by my own small dog. And it just made me really think. I wrote this presentation this weekend about all the things that kind of happened behind the scenes. And so I'm going to go through actually just the low points in my career and tell you what I got out of them. So the first one was in 2001. And in 2001, I was laid off from my then startup. It was 2 weeks after 9/11. I had kind of thought it was coming, and I thought I would get a job. I thought I would travel, actually. And my mom said, no, you can't travel after 9/11. Who knows what's happening? And so I started to look around, and it was the dot-com bust. There weren't many jobs. And I started to apply to things that I just saw on Craigslist or whatnot. And I happened to remember that I'd met someone at my company who was visiting from Google. And that person was a business person. And I wasn't an engineer. And I'd stored that nugget in my brain, like, oh, Google's hiring non-engineers. And I went on their website and I applied to a role called AdWords Coordinator, which was basically front lines of serving their ads customers. And I happened to get the job. And I happened to get the job for like a series of, I don't know, off chances, almost coincidences or whatnot. Like, I happened to have used a similar product, so I knew a lot about it. I happened to know French, and they needed someone to read French emails they were getting. And I was in the right place at the right time. And I wouldn't have known it. And I remember I was a spunky little 23, 22-year-old. And when my boss laid me off from the previous company, I said to him, "You're making a big mistake." And I think now back on that, and no, I was making the big mistake to think that this was a bad thing in my career. It obviously led to amazing things 19 years later. So then you go to the next year, and actually I sort of rode quite the rocket ship at Google. And it's 2008. I've sort of just been clinging on for dear life, surviving. And I have learned a ton. I was promoted to director in 2007. By all kind of outside measures, I was successful. I got married in 2006. And in 2008, I lost my sponsors. I had really strong support within the organization from the people running my organization. And one by one, they all left as the company changed, as they changed. And it was a real period of feeling bad, of feeling not awesome. And it was the first time that I had to find the inner resources and realize, no, I am awesome. And I'm carrying that, and I've done these things. And what is my career about now without these sponsors? What do I want? And that moment really changed the rest of my career. I was no longer following, I was the leader, and I was figuring out what I wanted. And it was a real eye opener and opportunity. But I don't want to hide the fact that it was very hard. And I went through a period of uncertainty. And while I had felt privileged and lucky to have those sponsors, I felt very lost not having them and having to then figure out, where do I go from here? And by the way, I would say alongside of this, by 2009, I had my first child. It was just a period of a lot of change. So then we go to the next one, 2011. It's 2011. I'm pregnant with my second child. And I'm coming to the realization that I have to leave the job that I've had for most of my tenure at Google. Many things had changed. I was no longer as interested or as excited by the role because I'd been doing it so long and I wasn't learning as much. I loved my team, absolutely loved it. But around me, the culture was really changing within the group that I was in. And so was my job as a director. And I just wasn't getting as much out of it. And I think it was impacting me in all kinds of ways. And I think even in some ways, my team members saw it. And it was really hard to acknowledge that I was reaching the end. And I went out on maternity leave and I had that space to think about what I wanted. And it led me to a totally new role, completely changing spaces with Google Fiber, our ultra-fast broadband product, and learning a whole new industry from scratch and taking on a major challenge, building out customer support and installs for a brand new product. So even that kind of down moment led me to a whole new place. And I think that I really needed to go through that in retrospect. If you asked me at the moment, I was really angry about a lot of things. But in that moment, I couldn't see it. But now that I look back, almost thank goodness that so many things were changing, and it really pushed me to make a big change in my life. 2017 is actually the year, if you saw my presentation earlier this year at Women Tech, that I talked about. This was the tough year where Google Fiber got downsized. And I spent the year helping myself and others find jobs, both inside Google and outside of Google. I was also going through family challenges, and I ended up having health issues by the end of the year. And so it again was a real moment of, how am I taking care of myself? And where do I want to go with my career if, again, I'm starting from scratch? And it led me to a whole new, again, moment in my life of really prioritizing my health, but also looking for something new that intrigued me versus just chasing success. And I think that that was really important given the health challenges I was having. I didn't want in leadership role just to be a leader and to be really busy and stressed. I wanted to be inspired, and I wanted to have some balance given my health. Actually, 2019 even was a little tough. Briefly, even writing my book was spurred by something disappointing in my career. I had a disappointing, even though I consider myself department, something that happened and it led. And it was a terrible moment, questioning, am I really valued? And am I in the right place? Am I doing the right things? But it also led me to think about, how am I investing in my career
And what haven't I gotten a chance to do that I want to do? Am I spending my time, especially my personal time, my evening time, my weekend time, investing in something that I want to do that feeds the bigger world? And having that whole thought process led me to write more, post more on LinkedIn, and led me down the road of realizing that I wanted to write this book and share stories about certainly myself, but also just a ton of different women with different backgrounds navigating tech and figuring out their way through it. And so again, I guess, this I don't want to make it neat and say maybe 2020 was good for us. I really don't think necessarily that's going to be how we think about 2020. But I do wonder what we will get out of this year that we can't see yet, and how this year maybe could change our careers and even society and the world, because we've had this moment of real awareness and shift and flashlights, highlights, big spotlights on things which aren't working. And I'd love to see where we're going to go from here with that. And by the way, this is the dangerous but cute puppy, who I put in here mainly because he's cute, but also because I thought I'll look back on this year and I'll mostly remember the good moments with the dog, not when he poisoned me and I wept. Anyway, so thank you so much for having me. I hope that you enjoyed these little stories. I'd love feedback on them, since this was a test, and thank you for being my guinea pigs on this journey with me sharing my low moments, as well as some of, actually, I guess, my career highlights.
Hello, Alana. Can you hear me just fine?
I can.
Hi,
Hello.
everyone. I am clearly not Anna, but I am jumping in for some of our last sessions today. So, Alana, you get two of us, one on either side of your presentation. So, thank you so much for all of your stories. I think it's so brave to share your stories, and I love that you kind of flip things on us, even with the little technical glitches at the beginning, and dove right in. So thanks so much for sharing your personal stories with us. That move from, employee to leader is certainly one that many listeners are facing. So it's great to know that we are not alone. So thanks so much, Alana. And I will now go on to introducing our next speaker.